This is the Diamond Hogs Podcast with Mason Choate and Robert Stewart.
Welcome to the Diamond Hogs Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined by my co-host, Robert Stewart, and new producer, Christian Cheetham of the Diamond Hogs Podcast. He is here once again. You heard him on the last episode. He's going to be with us moving forward, and we got to talk about a lot today. We've got some interviews. We have Matt Goodheart, once again, recurring guest now. Great interview with Matt Goodheart. What did we talk about? I mean, we got really analytical and strategic with Matt Goodheart, and I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, he provides some really good insight into what's going on with the Razorbacks right now, what's going on with the game of baseball right now, and another good Kevin Kopp story, so definitely stick around for that.
And then we also have Robbie Weinstein, who covers Vanderbilt and writes on the national desk for 247 Sports. He's going to give us some insight on the Commodores. The Commodores?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it says, right?
It's kind of like the Commanders.
As Pete D'Alessandro calls them, the commies. So we'll get into that, and we're going to talk some Razorback baseball as well. We got to talk about some stuff going on with the roster, talk to Dave Van Horn, and we'll get into all that. Before we do, want to remind you that you can find us on the Hit That Line Podcast Network. Robert, tell them about the Hit That Line Podcast Network.
Well, it's fantastic. I know that's where most of our listens come from, so appreciate you who are listening there. Of course, I live tweet the baseball games and write recaps, so usually they're very, very quick to go up. So if you need immediate recap of what you just saw, then go over to hitthatline.com. You can see the story I write. Hit That Line AR on Twitter. That's where the live tweets are. They've got other shows on there. They record their shows like Halftime and the Morning Rush. Put them on the Hit That Line Podcast Network if you missed them, and they've also got other podcasts like Trusting the Process with Ty Richardson. So.
Yeah, great stuff over there, and we're also available on HawgBeat.com, over at the HawgBeat YouTube, and you can find us there. We're thankful for all the people who watch there because we put a lot of effort into the video version of the podcast. So subscribe to HawgBeat YouTube, give a thumbs up, comment. Somebody commented on the last episode that you could not see the Chinook seeds because of the banner that we put on the video. So we raised it up. Hopefully you can see them now. These are our Chinook seeds. Go to ChinookSeedery.com. Use code DHP10 for 10% off your order of the greatest tasting seeds in the world. We're giving some away this weekend at the game.
Yes, we are.
Friday. So if you're listening to this on Friday, we also posted a video on Twitter, but first 6 people who go up to Robert, he's going to have this sign that's in the back, the blue one that's got blue, the green, I'm colorblind.
Are you really?
I am, yeah.
How about that?
The green one with the Diamond Hogs Podcast logo. Go find Robert. He'll give you either a free shirt or some free seeds. The shirts are from Toll Sports Management. We got them hanging up. If you're watching on the YouTube, you're just having a great day.
Yeah.
If you're listening, then you're missing out because you're not seeing all this great stuff that we're going to give away.
Exactly. So, yeah, I've got some friends in town. As some of you know, I'm from Virginia. I've got some friends in town visiting, so I'll be hanging out before the game in the Hog Pen with them. Come by, see me, get some shirts, get some seeds, and make my friends feel welcome to Arkansas.
You can seed mouth it at the game.
Exactly.
Yes. I actually had somebody get upset with me for putting seeds in my mouth and recording. They said it was disgusting.
I mean, I definitely wouldn't do it again.
I listened back to it, and it sounded pretty bad.
I definitely wouldn't do it again.
So we won't seed mouth it on the pod anymore, but we're definitely going to seed mouth it at the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
But, yeah, HawgBeat.com, best coverage of Arkansas athletics around, and go check that out and subscribe as well. So, okay. So here's the thing. We could sit here and talk about Vanderbilt. We're very thankful for Pete D'Alessandro and Christian Cheetham. They looked into all of the Vandy stuff for us. Christian, I'm going to go ahead and let you tell us your big takeaways from the research you did on Vandy, because Robert and I, we didn't really look into it a whole lot.
That's why we have Robbie coming on.
Yeah, so grab that mic. Tell us what you think about Vandy. I guess you could start with Enrique Bradfield.
Yeah, based on some of the highlights I was watching, some of the research, Bradfield is going to be a menace on the base pass this weekend. I believe it's updated at 34 stolen bases. He stole home on it during the midweek. So, yeah, he's going to be a handful for pitching and catching, Arkansas pitching and catching this weekend. So I think that's probably the biggest takeaway. They got a lot of good hitters, a lot of good pitchers, it's a different team than we've seen in the past. No more Leiter, no more Kumar Rocker, but there's still a lot of talent there.
Yeah, I mean, Dave Van Horn said in his press conference on Thursday that Vanderbilt is a lot like Arkansas as a program where they're going to win ball games. Let me find the quote. I think I tweeted out a quote about what he said. I think there's a lot of respect between the two programs, the two coaches, and the coaching staffs. Our teams show up pretty much every game. There's a high expectation at each program.
Right. And Christian, you mentioned Enrique Bradfield and his 100% stolen base rate at a ridiculous number of attempts, too. Like Dave said, best leadoff man in the country. Just looking here, his OBP is over 400. So, he's going to get on. Like, we always talk about who's the player they're going to have to limit, keep him off the base pass. Last week it was Sonny DeShera, right? Did a pretty good job of that. Mm-hmm. It's going to be Bradfield this weekend.
Yeah, but the good thing, if you're an Arkansas fan, is that Arkansas does a great job of limiting those guys.
Exactly.
I don't know how much you can limit Bradfield if he gets on base.
Well, you can't.
Because, Michael Turner, he's a good catcher, but no other catcher that Vanderbilt has played has been able to throw him out, and they've played some good baseball teams.
I mean, you're playing in the SEC, and nobody can throw you out. That's incredible.
Yeah. That includes Tennessee. That includes, they played Oklahoma State to start the year.
That's right.
They played Florida. They played A&M. They played Louisville in midweek. Auburn, Georgia. So, Arkansas is just the next on the list of a team that Enrique Bradfield is probably going to steal a base against successfully. So,
right.
But I want to talk about Arkansas because we got Robbie coming on. We're going to talk with him about Vanderbilt. I want to talk about Arkansas. I did a couple stories for HawgBeat.com. I figured, I got some time. School's out, which we need to get to that, like the mindset change for players when school's out. But we'll get into that. I looked at the corner outfielders because that's been, if you look at the lineup changes, it's always between really those guys, Lanzilli, Gregory, Borfin, who's going to play.
Right. And
I wanted to look into the difference between them, and it's a paid story over at HawgBeat.com. So if you subscribe, good for you. If not, it's your lucky day because I'm going to talk about some of it. But if you look at it, people got mad at us for talking about Gregory. Apparently, we overdid it. I don't know how. First of all, I don't know why Lanzilli's sitting, but second of all, Gregory is your guy.
I mean, he's still the team leader in OPS, right? Don't know this for a fact, but
I don't know off the top of my head.
He's still up there.
So his 4.66 on base is easily the team's highest. I know that.
And it's not particularly close either.
No. Lanzilli is second at 4.23.
So Chris Lanzilli and Zach Gregory, the two guys with the highest rates of getting on base on the team, have been regularly sitting the past 2 weeks.
Well, the thing about Gregory is, and you know what, I'm not even going to apologize to all the people who get mad when we talk about Gregory. He doesn't even qualify as an SEC stat leader anymore because you have to play 75% of the games, and he's played 72%.
Right. I mean, we talk, or I guess I tweeted this during one of the Auburn games, but when one of the starters got yanked from the game early, it was a righty, and they brought in a lefty for Zach Gregory. Like, he was the first batter this lefty out of the pen faced. He got hit by a pitch.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if his average sucks. That's not, and we talk about this with Matt Goodheart too. Average is not all that important. I would argue that OBP and OPS are far more important. And
Dave Van Horn said it on Thursday that he thinks average isn't a good stat.
And yet he still thinks that I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, you are the bad guy if we're talking about it. Like, you kind of suck. But as far as Gregory goes, though, like, yes, he has not been great. He's hitting 105 against lefties. That's just what it is. But I mean, his OBP is still 414 against left-handers.
Over 400 is really good. How many guys have an OBP over 400 on the team? Period. Michael Turner, Chris Lanzilli, Braden Webb, Zach Gregory, and that's it of the qualified guys. Kendall Diggs also has a OBP over 400. So his 414 against left-handed pitchers who he struggles to hit, and yet he's not really struggling to get on base against.
Yeah, and then you look at it, Lanzilli sat 2 games against Auburn, right? I think it was Friday and Sunday's game he didn't play.
Yes.
And I don't know if he's hurt. They didn't like the matchup, but I mean, you just look at Lanzilli's splits. He's hitting 367 with runners in scoring position. He's 310 against lefties, 315 against righties. So it's like you can't even say that it's a matchup thing.
Right.
Maybe it's his fielding, because I mean we've seen him in the field. He's struggled a little bit, but I looked at his fielding. He hasn't made an error all year. According to the NCAA stats, they might be wrong on that, but you can double check me. Christian, can you pull that up?
I've got the Razorback stats in front of me.
Okay.
One error?
Yeah, according to the Razorback the PDF as of May 8th, it says 1.
Okay. Well, then maybe I was wrong. What about Borvin?
Is that right?
I remember him like
It was a midweek game, wasn't
misplaying. Was it a midweek? Maybe it was.
I don't.
It didn't seem like it was. I don't think the game was really close. I think it was Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
I think, if we're being honest.
Okay. Either what's Borfin? Does Borfin have an error?
It doesn't have an error.
What about Gregory?
Gregory's got 2.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just opened it. It was April 2nd against Mississippi State. The Hogs were up 11-3.
So do you think that's
12-3?
Do you think that's the thing about Lanzilli? Maybe it's his fielding, because it cannot be him hitting.
That was a lazy play, and like I said, 12-3 is a game that was out of hand. So whatever. I don't know. Like, he's not an aesthetically pleasing fielder, you know, but I mean, 1 error on the year is pretty good. I don't have an explanation for it, because Jace Borfin is not really special at the plate yet.
No, I'll get into Borfin here in a second, but maybe with Lanzilli, I didn't look at his like recent stats, like what he's done for them lately. I'll pull that up, but before will you pull up his recent? No, you pull it up. That's why we have Christian here. Just go to his page on the roster, and it has the recent games. But while he's doing that, so you look at Borfin. He had the shoulder injury, but I think we're past the point where you can't say he's not 100%. Like, he's had his time to get better. In his 24 appearances this season, which includes 21 starts, he's hitting .238. He's got a .333 on base. And listen to this. He has 19 hits, but he also has 19 strikeouts.
Jace Borfin.
Yes, and so his sample size against lefties is small, but he's hitting .226 against righties. 17 of his 19 strikeouts have come against right-handers. Like I said, the sample size against the lefties are small. It's only 18 at bats, but he really struggles against right-handed pitchers.
That's weird.
Yeah,
I mean, he had a big home run the other night in Auburn, but
he did.
Other than that, like, and I'm looking at Lanzilli's past few series right now. Like, he was 0 for 2 against Auburn because he only had that one game, but Ole Miss didn't start Friday. I think he did Saturday and Sunday. You guys are looking at it over there.
Yeah.
He was 3 for 8 in those 2 games together. Had a couple of singles and a home run. What did he do against A&M? He was 4 for 13 against the Aggies. He was 3 for 12 against LSU before that. So, I mean, the last month or so, he's getting multiple hits a weekend. Like,
I just counted it up. Before the Auburn game on Saturday, he had an 11-game hit streak. An 11-game hit streak, and he gets
and he's sitting?
Yeah. We're not Dave Van Horn.
It's a loaded outfield. I get it. There are tough decisions you make. Tough decisions you have to make, and this is a good problem to have.
You gotta think about the Kendall Diggs situation too.
I mean, that complicates things even further.
Yeah, Slavins is playing first now, and
we got to talk about Peyton Stovall.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many guys that could get into this lineup. I mean, while we brought him up, Peyton Stovall, what happens to him? Does he get the Zach Gregory treatment with lefties? Because Kendall Diggs seems to hit them okay. So you put Slavins at first, like you did in Auburn, and I guess platoon Stovall and Slavins.
I see. This is where it's tough for me, and I don't envy Dave Van Horn because I honestly forgot about Stovall until just now when we mentioned it. Because it's like Slavins is playing first, and he played first all year last year, and he did fine. And you look at Stovall, and do you want to sit one of these outfielders for Stovall, and then what do you do with Kendall Diggs? So, like, let's just go through it. So Turner's going to be in the lineup. Moore is going to be in the lineup. Battles, Wallace, Webb. Is that 5? That's 5 guys.
Center, second, third, short, catcher. Center, second, third, short, catcher. 5.
Five guys that you know are going to be in the lineup. Slavins too. Slavins is a lock for the lineup now.
Wherever he plays is up in the air, but he's in.
So that's 6. So then you decide between Stovall, Diggs, Gregory, Borfin, Lanzilli.
So you got to pick 3 out of 5?
3 out of 5. Can I pick mine?
Versus righties, go.
Versus righties?
We'll do versus righties and versus lefties.
Okay.
Because it's probably going to be a matchup thing.
Definitely Gregory versus righties. I'm going to take Lanzilli because let me pull it back up. What he's hitting against righties. I think it was either 310 or 315, one of the two. Let's see. Sorry. 315 against right-handers. So
your corner outfielders are Lanzilli and Gregory. So you've got first base and DH open. Slavins gets one of the two.
Slavins is going to play first base.
Who's DHing? You get to pick between Stovall, Borfin, and Diggs.
Right now, I'm picking Diggs because of the quality of bats that he has had over the past 2 weeks. He might not have a whole lot of hits, but he's getting on base.
Right. So Kendall Diggs starts
against a righty because he's lefty.
Right, but he also hits lefties really well. So Kendall Diggs is in the lineup until further notice?
I think, based on what we've heard from Dave Van Horn, and based on the fact that they've been winning ball games with him in the lineup, why not?
So Stovall sits until further notice.
They've been winning games without him. I don't think it's hard because you don't want to sit that guy.
I know.
This is where it's tough because it's not like we're trashing on Stovall or Borfin. It's just like you have a really tough situation. What would you do?
No, I think I'm in agreement with you there. I think you ride Diggs until he gets cold. Also, I mean, we don't really know the extent of Stovall's injury right now. So if he's not 100%, then there's no reason to play him right now.
Well, we were told that he would be good to go.
That's what he said.
I mean, how long did we hear that Jace Borfin?
But is that 100%?
Yeah.
I mean, good to go and 100% are not the same thing. So
I don't think you should rush it either.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You don't have a need to rush it.
You don't. So you don't need to plug him in until he's 100% healthy, I think.
And then against lefties, are we just swapping Gregory?
Well, I mean, he's not going to start Gregory against a lefty.
So swap Gregory for
Borfin.
Stovall?
No, because Stovall can't hit lefties either.
Okay, then
I think it's
keep Diggs in.
Borfin.
I guess. Even though Borfin, what's Borfin?
Well, you said he hits righties poorly, so maybe he's better against lefties.
He has a 278 average. 4 of his 5 hits against lefties have gone for extra bases. 2 doubles and 2 home runs.
He's hitting 278 against left-handed pitchers.
Yeah, he's got a 722 slugging percentage against lefties compared to a 387 slugging against righties.
That is so weird. He's left-handed, right?
Yeah. He hits 226 against righties, and 17 of his 19 strikeouts have come against righties.
Okay, so Jace Borfin starts in left field against lefties.
I think, yeah.
His total, non-situational batting average is 238. He's hitting 40 points higher than that against left-handed pitchers.
It's a smaller sample size. It's 18 at bats.
Sure it is.
But so is Gregory's sample size against lefties. It's, 19 at bats, I think? So, well, it might be more after the Auburn series. Either way.
Not that big.
Yeah. Okay. I think Christian was in agreement. He was shaking his head. So, I think that's a fun conversation to have. It's almost a little stressful to have. Like, your heart rate gets pumping, and you're like, what do we do? It's like fantasy.
Yeah.
Who do you plug in? You got a bench full of guys, and who do you start in the flex, That's tough.
It's like fantasy, except this is what actual coaches have to do every day.
Yeah. You remember when we did our fantasy draft last year?
Yeah, we did.
The real listeners remember that. Did you listen last year? Okay. We did a fantasy draft for Razorback baseball players. I took
Kevin Kopp's first overall.
He had Kopp's. Did I take more?
I don't remember. I just remember that I just remember it was sort of unorthodox to pick a relief pitcher first overall. But I was like, Kevin Kopp's is the real deal, so got to do it.
Is this like all-time Razorbacks?
No,
or just for last year.
And we would do updates every other week of whose fantasy team is doing better. And overall,
we're like, I think I won. No, I think I won.
No, overall, I think we can both say, the sample size across the entire teams, mine was better. But you had Kevin Kopp's, and I think that makes you win.
Right.
He won the Golden Spikes.
Right. That should be worth 1 million points.
Yeah. So if you didn't have Kopp's, you just take Kopp's out of the equation, I think I probably won.
Sure.
Okay. What were we talking about? Okay.
We're talking
Corner
about
outfielders.
fantasy. That was the segue. You were like, this conversation is like fantasy football or whatever.
Okay. I want to talk about school is out mindset of the players now, because
I'm thrilled personally. I'm not a player, but
one of the players that we've talked to said
it was Evan Taylor.
He said once school gets out, that's when like things get real.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's not just Arkansas who has that mindset, but I think it helps. I mean, we talked to Kendall Diggs last week, and he said that school was kicking his butt.
Right.
And so you think about a guy like that, you get out of school, baseball's everything now. You don't have to focus on school. I think of Kevin Kopps a lot because he was like, a biomedical engineer?
Right.
That was his major. And it's
that probably kicked his butt.
It probably kicked his butt. So you think about it, once he didn't have to worry about classes anymore, I mean, he was a 6-year senior last year. I doubt he was taking very many hours. And so he was able to put a lot of time and effort into baseball. So I think it helps the older guys for sure, but you think about the younger guys like Robert Moore, he's still taking probably a full schedule worth of classes. Kendall Diggs is, Peyton Stovall, like these younger guys, they're having to. The older guys, their hours are a little weird.
Right.
But now they're able to put their full mindset on baseball. I think that really helps going into postseason, especially because the offense is starting to click.
Right. And Taylor told us that practices are now in the mornings, and so they've got afternoons off.
Yeah.
They can relax. I mean, that's got to be nice.
Yeah. So I think that's going to help the mindset. We'll see if it transfers onto the field.
And Robert Moore won't have to miss any more post-game media for finance homework. So
yeah, it's good for Robert Moore. Any big takeaways from Dave Van Horn's press conference?
I mean, we talked about Stovall being good to go. Whether he sees the field this week, that's another story.
He did say Lanzilli will probably play this weekend.
As he should.
As he should.
I mean, I remember the first game I saw him in the fall. I was like, this guy's got to be in the middle of the order.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he's one of the best home run hitters career-wise in college baseball.
Right.
So.
And, I mean, his on-base percentage is second on the team, so.
Yeah. I agree. So, no, you didn't really have any other big takeaways?
I don't think so. I mean.
There were a lot of questions about Vanderbilt.
Yes, there were.
So.
We'll leave that stuff to Robbie. But, yeah, I mean, Vanderbilt's in the rankings for the first time since, April 10th, Christian, right? Something like that? Yeah. They're number 24, so we'll have a top 25 series at Baum Walker this weekend. It's going to be awesome. I'm really excited about it because, a lot of these teams, as we've discussed, I think we discussed last time, is that they've dropped out of the rankings, and all the good teams we were expecting to come through Fayetteville weren't quite so good. But top 25, it's going to be fun.
Yeah. I guess I'll just give a little rankings update. So Arkansas moved up to 4 in D1
held
baseball.
tight at 4, I think. They were 4 last week as well.
Oh, stayed. Oh, I misspelled something. I said stayed out. Dang, how did I not notice that until just now? They stayed put at number 4. That's my bad.
Stayed out.
Let's see. So with the series win at Auburn, Arkansas jumped up to number 20 in the RPI. I think Van Horn said that.
He said, Ole Miss beat Southern Miss in a midweek game, and Southern Miss is a top.
Southern Miss is a top 10 team.
14. I think they dropped to 14 recently, according to the SEC website. Anyway,
Vanderbilt was number 4. Before that, I don't know if they've moved because of.
Well, wasn't Auburn 4 last week? So you get another top 5 RPI team. That was the other thing that Dave really talked about. I do have a key takeaway. He talked a lot about RPI, right? Someone, Hutch, maybe asked him, where do you come down on this? And I think he gave the correct answer. He has no control over it. There's nothing to stress about.
Yeah.
And there was another question about, do you think the selection committee will give them some wiggle room, even if their RPI is not, maybe doesn't justify a top 8 national seed? If you win the West, they should take that into account because they can't control their conference opponents.
Yeah. Christian, what are the RPI rankings right now?
All right, so according to NCAA's website, let's see, Arkansas is at 21, and Vanderbilt's at 4. Yeah.
So Arkansas dropped a spot. They were at 20.
They were at 20 recently. Yeah, I think before
And this is as of Thursday the 12th.
Yeah. So in Vanderbilt, number 4. So it's a good opportunity, get another good RPI win.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt is number 24. We mentioned that. So it's number 4. Ranked matchup. That's the third ranked series that Arkansas is going to play this year.
Right. LSU and who else? Not Florida.
No. Auburn.
Yes.
Auburn. Yeah. And then another thing I wanted to add before we get to our interview with Robbie. D1 Baseball put out their regional projections, and people freaked out. Like, I saw it, and I was like, whoa. So they have Arkansas back in the top 8 as a 6 seed. They dropped to 9 last week because they just projected Arkansas to lose to Auburn.
And that was after a series win, right?
Yeah.
After they beat Ole Miss?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So they have Arkansas as a 6 seed, and here is the Fayetteville Regional, folks. Arkansas is the 1 seed. Obviously, they're hosting. Texas as the 2 seed. Louisiana Tech as the 3 seed. And SEMO, Southeastern Missouri State, as the 4.
That's loaded.
That is not ideal, to say the least. Texas, with probably the Golden Spikes winner, and Ivan Melendez, that's his name, right? Mm-hmm. He's probably going to win the Golden Spikes. He's up to, what, 24 homers?
I'll check, but yeah, the Hispanic Titanic is...
Hispanic Titanic.
Is, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That would be a fun weekend at Baum. That's a lot of good baseball.
It's a lot of good baseball, but that is a tough regional to get out of.
Yeah, it is. Let me ask you this. I didn't click on the article, but who is the corresponding regional that they would theoretically play in Supers?
Let me pull it up. 1 second.
Melendez has 25 home runs, by the way.
Oh, my
Goodness
gosh.
gracious. And that's with two weeks left in the regular season.
And he's hitting 422.
Holy shnikes.
Average? Oh, my goodness.
What's his on base?
Let's see.
Man.
540.
540. So more than half the time he comes to the plate, he gets on.
Okay, here's the corresponding. It would be the Baton Rouge.
Yes, it was Baton Rouge. I saw that.
So LSU as the 11, and then in the Baton Rouge Regional, get this. You have LSU, Dallas Baptist, McNeese, and who else but NC State.
Wow.
And NC State, what regional was it? It was
Ruston.
It was Ruston. They came out of the
Louisiana
Ruston
Tech.
Regional, came into Fayetteville in the Supers, and beat Arkansas. So based on this D1 baseball projection, that exact same thing could happen again.
So this could be like a dream route to Omaha for Hog fans, because you could beat Texas in a regional, and then you could either beat LSU to get to Omaha or get revenge on NC State.
I don't think LSU is going to win that regional. I don't think LSU is that good of a baseball team. From when
certainly
we
not
watched them,
defensively.
When we watched them, that's scary.
That's
honestly.
probably one of the best series Arkansas's played all year, though.
Yes.
Also.
One more thing. Ty Richardson posted this on Twitter. He works for ESPN Arkansas. HitThatLine.com. Ty Richardson, trusting the process. Go check it out. If you're in Omaha, who would you rather see Arkansas play in the College World Series final? We're not saying, Arkansas is a lock for the final. It's just, this is a hypothetical. Tennessee or Oregon State? You said Oregon State. I said Tennessee for 2 reasons. One, it would be really, really good for business.
Sure.
Numbers would be through the roof. 2, you've been talking about Tennessee all year. Tennessee fans have been coming at Arkansas all year. Rent-free, rent-free, rent-free. Shut up. Arkansas, Tennessee, I think that would be better, because Oregon State, yeah, you lost the final to them. So what? Get over it. Tennessee, that's an SEC team. You're gonna play them next year. That's something that you can have over them. Oregon State, you'll play them once every however long. What do you think, Christian?
Yeah, I would love to see Tennessee. I want to see Gilbert. I want to see Ben Joyce. I want to see all their best players. I think that would be just like seeing Texas would be awesome too, just to see the matchups. And selfishly, I want to see those matchups and those players.
Right.
So you'd rather see Tennessee over Oregon State?
Right.
Okay.
I say Oregon State. Say what you want about 2018. I think the primary thing is, the Tennessee factor is very much real in my choice to say Oregon State. Like, you remember once the Hogs got bounced last year, the Vols did make it to Omaha, and Hog fans were like, oh, well, Dave Van Horn's still Tony Vitello's dad or whatever. Like, and then the Vols fans were like, are you kidding me? You're not here right now at the College World Series. So Arkansas can do that, but in the College World Series finals.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think the answer is clearly Tennessee. I get the revenge factor against Oregon State, but
that's not even the biggest thing. I think if Arkansas just says they made it farther than Tennessee, because that's what Tennessee did last year.
Yeah, no, I get that. That makes sense. I just think it would be. I look at it from two perspectives. As I said, you've been talking about them all year, and really good for business. Arkansas,
Sure.
Tennessee would be way better for business
Sure.
than Arkansas, Oregon State.
Yeah.
So, that's what I got. All right. Anything else to add before we get to Robbie Weinstein?
I don't think so.
Okay. Real quick, Chinook Seedery. Go to ChinookSeedery.com.
DHP10.
Use code DHP10, 10% off your order for the best tasting seeds in the world. You can get the cinnamon toast. Robert, you got some cinnamon toast on the way.
Yes, I ordered some.
I'm excited to try the cinnamon toast, but the jalapeno ranch, the hatch chili, the Parmesan and pepper. I think a lot of people, you like the Parmesan and pepper best, right, Christian? You had them. Tell people.
Yeah, those are my favorite. We were watching the Hogs game the other day and I ate a whole bag of them.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You could eat like it, and you don't even feel bad about it. They're keto, They're not unhealthy. There's less salt, all the flavor. I'm reading off the bag. No sandpaper tongue, gluten-free, no MSG, non-GMO verified, and they have their signature roast. So they got the original smokehouse barbecue, dill pickle. That's your go-to, Robert. So yeah, DHP10, ChinookSeedery.com.
And come visit us tonight before the game in the Hog Pen. I'll be giving out some jalapeno ranch, smokehouse barbecue, and Parmesan and pepper. So
Friday night, go find the sign. You can get a free shirt or some free Chinook seeds from Robert. All right, here is Robbie Weinstein.
The Diamond Hogs Podcast is the premier Razorback baseball podcast.
All right, we now welcome on Robbie Weinstein. He covers Vanderbilt for 247 Sports. Robbie, thank you for your time. First of all, first question, let's start with it. So, not your normal top 5 Vanderbilt team that we've seen the past couple years. Why do you think that is? I mean, we know that you don't have Leiter, you don't have Rocker, but we haven't watched a whole lot of Vanderbilt baseball, and I'm sure most of our listeners haven't either. So fill us in.
Yeah, I think it's the reasons why are a little bit different than what people would expect. It has less been, you would think, like you mentioned, not having Rocker and Leiter who really carried the team last year. Last season, even though they were a top 5 team, they were so top heavy, right? I mean, they had those two guys who just carried them every weekend and carried them in the postseason, and they didn't have great depth. This season, the pitching has been quite good. It's not really an issue. They have great depth, but I think a lot of people expected Vanderbilt hitting to come around. They really slumped at the plate late last season, and that's why they ended up, a big reason why they ended up not winning the College World Series last season. And some of the guys haven't really developed like a lot of people expected. So Carter Young is the starting shortstop, and he, was hitting the ball really well early last season. Then he got hurt, dislocated his shoulder, and just didn't do well from there. He's hitting like 210 or something this season when a lot of people expected him to emerge as a first-round pick this year. So Parker Nolan, there are a lot of guys on the team who are veterans, who are now at the bottom of the lineup and just haven't hit well this season. So I think that has been the big issue, is that top 4 or 5 spots of Vanderbilt's lineup really strong, but at times, frankly, the 7th through 9th spots have been automatic outs, and that to me is the big thing that has been holding them back.
So how about on the pitching side of things? I know Christian Little got his first start of the year last week. How is the rotation shaping up for the series in Fayetteville this weekend?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Aria Gerson from the Tennessean reported that Devin Futrell, who's a freshman, is actually going to start on Friday. I am actually recovering from COVID, so I wasn't able to go to the game on Tuesday and ask Corbin myself. But what we do know is that Chris McIlvain is probably going to start on Saturday. And then Carter Holton, who's a freshman, actually true freshman left-hander who's very talented, he's probably going to start in the third game of the series on Sunday. So Friday, presumably Futrell. Christian Little, as you mentioned, did start last week on Friday. He's a very talented player who could be a first-round pick in 2023. I will say that the starting pitching probably is not as strong for Vanderbilt as the bullpen. They've got more than enough starters, but I don't know that they've got, the top end guys like Rocker and Leiter in the past. The thing is, though, they've got, 5 or 6 guys who are capable of being quality starters. So if the starter comes into the game and is off or something or doesn't last long, they've got a lot of really high quality long relief guys. And then Thomas Schultz, their closer, has had a fantastic year. He's one of the best closers in college baseball. So I think from Arkansas's perspective, you can get some work done potentially early in games. But if you go into the 5th, 6th, 7th innings and you're trailing Vanderbilt, you're going to have a hard time because they have a fantastic record this season if they hold a lead late in the game.
So let's talk about the Vanderbilt hitters. And Arkansas does a really good job of limiting an opposing team's best player. And I'm gonna start with Bradfield, Enrique Bradfield. I don't expect Arkansas to be able to control him if he gets on base, but how do you get a guy like him out? Like what is his weakness and where can Arkansas exploit it?
Well, interestingly, he actually, his batting average is lower this season. I would say, like you said, I mean, once he gets on base, he has not been caught stealing this season. So, certainly no disrespect to Arkansas, one of the elite teams in the country. It's just nobody, regardless of who is at catcher, has been able to get him out on the base paths. Even if you get him in a rundown, even if you pick him off, it's still probably like 50-50. He got out of a rundown situation last weekend. So I think what you want to do is you don't want to walk the guy. He draws a lot of walks. You got to make him put the ball in play. He's hitting, let me see here, 297 this season. He was in the, he was above 300 last season, even like 350 for much of the year. So I think if you're Arkansas, you just got to live with, he has improved his power this season, but he's generally not going to hit for, he's probably not going to hit the ball out of the park. And I think what you've got to do is you've got to force him to beat you with his bat. He can certainly do that, but what you can't do is walk him because he does have a good eye at the plate. He's a patient hitter. And that's the one guy, there are certain players on every team where you walk the guy, they get to first base and, they're slower and they're probably not a threat to steal. I mean, with Bradfield, it's like an automatic runner in scoring position if you walk him. So Arkansas just can't afford to do that. Nobody can afford to do that.
So there are 3 other guys on the stat sheet with the eye-popping slash lines. Dominic Keegan and Spencer Jones, they're qualified, both hitting over 385, OPS over 1100. Can you tell us a little bit about those two? And then below the line is Calvin Hewitt hitting 393, but looks like he hasn't played enough games to qualify.
Sure. So Keegan is interesting because he was drafted by the Yankees last year, sort of like the later rounds. I know it was a shortened draft, but I think something like 15th or 18th round. And that was as a first baseman. He decided to come back because he can play catcher. He came to Vanderbilt originally as a catcher, but he wasn't doing that last season. And the thought was he could improve his draft stock by playing catcher this season because he's a better defensive catcher than defensive first baseman. So he has been doing that a decent amount. He's a very good defensive catcher. And, even last season, hitting wasn't the issue. He was one of the team's best hitters last year, and he has continued to improve on that. He hit 3 home runs at Georgia, so, I mean, that's he is on fire right now for sure. Power to all parts of the field, and he's a really tough guy to get out. He's not a threat on the base paths, though, as you would expect from a first baseman / catcher type. Jones is interesting because he went 6 for 6 against Indiana State on Tuesday, which that tied a program record that went back to like the 1950s. He came to Vanderbilt as a 2A player and was probably more highly regarded as a pitcher, but he had a lot of arm injuries. He had Tommy John and some other, I think like a broken arm or something along those lines. He's 6'7", but he's really fast. He's an incredible athlete and a good chance to be a first round pick this season. He just has really put it together at the plate. And I mean, he's on fire right now as well. So those 2 guys at the top of the lineup, or I guess in like the 3-4 spot usually, or 2-3 spots, really dangerous. Cal Hewitt is interesting. Like you guys said, he's younger and he's only played in 26 games, but he is hitting 393. He's a little banged up, so we'll see exactly how he figures into this matchup this weekend. I think one of the things on him is he wasn't super highly regarded compared to or highly ranked compared to the other guys that Vanderbilt brought in that class. So I sort of wonder, he has certainly exceeded those expectations, and he's a good defensive player in left field. But I think as the tape gets out on him a little bit more, the scouting report gets out on him, he's going to need to adjust. And so, he's been at toward the top of the lineup, but I would definitely put him 2 notches below Jones and Keegan, who are really established players. The scouting report is out, and they're still hitting guys like crazy.
So, talking about scouting report, I don't know how much you've been able to look at Arkansas to this point, but from a Vanderbilt perspective, looking at this series against Arkansas, where do you think Vanderbilt can win the series? Because we know about Arkansas. We know Arkansas's weaknesses. I'm curious as far as Vanderbilt's strengths and how they can use those to beat Arkansas. What are you thinking?
I could see Arkansas struggling a little bit at the plate. Vanderbilt last week lost a 1-0 midweek game to Louisville, but to hold Louisville to 1 run is kind of unheard of. They're routinely scoring 10 or more runs a game. I think this is going to be so. Then on the other side, I don't know that Vanderbilt's going to have a ton of success against Arkansas's pitching staff either. If Arkansas can just, I would say in terms of the weaknesses that Vanderbilt would look to exploit, they're going to have to win low-scoring games, I think. And then from the Arkansas side, probably, like I mentioned, you want to get to McIlvain and Holton early if you can. Potentially, Futrell, if he starts, this would be his first weekend start of the season. He's been great in the midweek role, but he has not pitched on this type of stage at Baum Field. That's, that place is gonna be rocking, and that's a little bit different environment. So that's what I would look at. I'm expecting a low scoring series. Then the other thing for Vanderbilt is I think they're going to have to manufacture some runs like from Bradfield on the base paths. If he doesn't get on base in this series, it's going to be really difficult for them. But I'm sure you guys saw that he tied the game up in the 9th inning the other night on a steal of home. I think Vandy is going to have to be very aggressive. They want to host. They're probably not on track to host right now. So I expect them to go all out in terms of playing aggressive.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to ask you. They're ranked 24th. I know their RPI is really high, but clearly you think there's some fire under their butts to try to play themselves back into hosting a regional.
I think so, because I don't think I think it's possible that if the bracket came out today, maybe they would be a surprise hosting team, because as you mentioned, number 4 RPI, strong strength of schedule, good record. They're a good team. They're not the most consistent in the world. But then the problem is, if you look at their resume, they won the series at Georgia. That's a very good series win. That's kind of all they have. Before that, they hadn't beaten any of the top tier teams or even top half teams in the SEC. So, I think they won a home regional at this point. They're not going to be a national seed. And we saw Tim Corbin manage much more aggressively in that midweek game against Indiana State than he usually would. He used some of his best arms. And so that'll be, I think Tuesday to Friday, everybody should be available. But that will be an interesting thing worth tracking is like Christian Little pitched against Indiana State on Tuesday. That's unusual. I believe Patrick Riley, I think, also pitched, and that was the first time he had appeared in a midweek game. He's one of their top long relievers who has also started games and gets up to 97, 98 miles an hour. So it's possible that some of Vanderbilt's best relief guys out of the bullpen may not be, they'll be available on Friday, but I don't know if they're going to be able to go 30, 40, 50 pitches if necessary. It's possible that they could be limited to slightly shorter outings.
This is a question related to off the field. Somehow, I don't know if you've seen the Skull Sparks things or whatever on Twitter, where it rates a specific team or program, how many impressions they have on social media. Vanderbilt baseball is always number 1 because of Instagram. What is it with Vanderbilt baseball's Instagram and how they get so many impressions?
Yeah, they're good at social media for baseball, which is interesting because I think the marketing and social media aspect and promotion of Vanderbilt's other programs, football, men's basketball, women's basketball, has been really lacking in the past. That's something that anybody who follows Vanderbilt's programs would probably say, and they've sort of admitted that they could probably promote their programs a little bit better. But I think for baseball, they just kind of, they got in on it early, so they got a lot of Instagram followers early. When they were, I mean, probably even going back to 2014. And all the years in between then when they've been contending consistently, to go to the College World Series. But yeah, I guess it's just like good, original, funny content. They're definitely very good at it. It's kind of interesting here, like the baseball program in some ways operates, I wouldn't say like separately from the rest of the athletic department, but it's definitely like Corbin kind of can do, he has so much cachet built up that he can kind of do what he wants basically. So they're run a little bit different, I think, than the other programs here. And that's very fair because that guy knows what he's doing and is, like Dave Van Horn, this is a fun coaching matchup this weekend, right? This is two of the elite coaches in the sport.
I want to ask you about your take on Hawkins Field. I know the series is in Fayetteville this week, but from an outsider's perspective, it seems like a program with as much prestige as Vanderbilt maybe ought to have a little nicer of a ballpark.
Yeah, they're working to improve it. So I think that's a fair point. They put in new seating this year. I think what they were looking to do is also expand it potentially. I mean, I do think, especially for postseason games, it's sold out and they could fit a lot more people in there if they had the room. So they're gonna close one of the streets, like sort of the street that runs along the first baseline in a few years, and will potentially be able to expand the stadium in that direction. The tough thing is like it's sort of abuts against the football stadium, and so there's some limitations in terms of what they can do there. However, I think the thing that Vanderbilt has really it's helped them win in recruiting is that they have really, really nice like back end stuff, facilities for the players in terms of, they have like the MLB player locker room or whatever. They have really nice batting cages and the pitching lab, they call it, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I do agree. Like, I think the stadium itself, although improved, they got a new nice video board that they put in a couple years ago. It could be better. They're working on that. But, it's not like I went to a game at Arkansas a few years ago and sat in the hog pen, like in the outfield, right, or whatever, with the students. That was so much fun. So I think that Vanderbilt probably, could do some improvements in terms of like the stadium experience and all that. And I think they're planning to do that, but to this point, a lot of the investment has been on like, facilities for the players and such.
All right, Robbie, before we let you go, I just want to know what you think is going to happen this weekend. Maybe, you don't have to give us like score predictions, but you think Vandy wins it? You think Arkansas wins it? What do you think?
No, I'll take Arkansas 2 out of 3. I mean, that seems the most sensible prediction. Probably Arkansas is the better team. They've been the better team all season. Vanderbilt does seem to be playing a little bit better. I think they have the talent to win the series, and it wouldn't shock me if they take 2 out of 3, just because I think these games for the most part are going to be low scoring games, which means they're probably going to be close and competitive. But at this point, Arkansas has just been the more consistent team this season. So tough at home, and for that reason, I don't really see a compelling reason to pick Vanderbilt when they've been a little bit up and down this season. They're having to go on the road here, and Arkansas, just to this point, we're 50 games in the season or whatever, and they've proven to be the better team.
All right, Robbie Weinstein, thank you very much for your time. You were great, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Say hello to Ty Richardson, everyone's favorite.
Will do.
You're listening to the Diamond Hogs podcast with Mason Choate and Robert Stewart.
All right, we now welcome on friend of the program, Matt Goodheart. Excited to have him back on. Now, since the last time we talked to you, Matt, you've been a lot more active on Twitter. You've kind of been going at some of the haters on Arkansas baseball. So what's that about? And I guess for a lot of us, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I don't know really the answer to what it's about, but I guess it's more so in defense to the program and to the players and coaches that are a part of it. I mean, first off, I try to be as positive of a guy as I can possibly be. I just think that positively impacting those that are around you is the secret to life, if you will. You know what I mean? But I just don't think that the hate for the, that I see on the program, the hate towards the coaching staff, the hate towards the players, I find that unacceptable from a fan base, especially only in this case because they are succeeding. and they're successful. They're still playing at a high level. They, like you said before, it's kind of the fan base has become spoiled in the sense because of how successful the program has been in the past. And, I have taken a little more to social media in regards to voicing my opinions too, because it seems like people are interested in what players that are still a part of the game have to say. And whether they agree with it or not, sometimes they just want to hear what it is. And I'm very open to that, especially if people are respectful, and even if they disagree, if they're respectful about it and go about it the right way, that affects me. That allows me to see other perspectives and make as good a decisions in life as I can possibly make.
Matt, so you told us, or you mentioned just now that they've been playing at a high level. They're winning games. Big series win this past weekend on the Plains in Auburn. Do you watch any of that? Do you have any big takeaways for us?
Yeah, I watched most of the first two games. I was unable to watch most of the Sunday game because we had practice, but big takeaways. Man, my biggest takeaway, I guess, would be that if the Razorbacks play to the level of their capabilities, if they play their game, if they don't sink down below their level of play, they're a really, really, really good team. Really solid defensively, really solid on the mound, and even really solid at the plate. And just because they haven't hit to the level that they're capable of in the past doesn't mean that they're not a good hitting team. And two, does not mean that they won't get hot later in the season either. You think of the teams from the postseason last year, like Nebraska and NC State, and go and look at their numbers prior to the first half of the season, even the first 3 quarters of the season before the postseason. And their numbers weren't anything to write home about, and then we go and play them in the postseason. And I don't have to remind everyone how good those teams were and how solid they were whenever we played them in the postseason. And I think that just goes to show how quickly things can change for starters. And two, show that it doesn't matter earlier in the season, but what matters is if you get hot later in the season. And that leads you a lot further than a midweek loss in the middle of the season.
So I want some perspective from you. You've played under Dave Van Horn. You know his mindset, his philosophy. So I've been looking at the corner outfielders, Gregory, Lanzilli, Borafin, and it's not just those guys. Dave Van Horn, he's been mixing the lineup a lot, trying to figure things out. But what is it about him and how he tries to figure out the lineup? I mean, do you know what his philosophy is? It feels like it's a lot of matchup based.
Yeah, he is. He does tend to lean matchup wise pretty heavily, and he doesn't just blindly do it either. He tends to look at spray charts, looks at how the pitcher attacks guys for one, and also what guys' numbers are against specific arms, right? So he mentioned he mentioned in one of the pressers after the game about Gregory not hitting lefties well. And all he said was, go look at Gregory's numbers against left-handed pitching. I don't know what they are, but that tells me that maybe Gregory hasn't been picking up lefties real well, despite the fact that he's obviously a good hitter, he's a great teammate and a great player. But maybe the numbers show that Leach or whoever pinch hit for him against a left-handed pitcher in that position is probably the way to go, and that's not always the case too. I believe they mentioned over the weekend too that Kendall Diggs is hitting left-handed pitching better than he's hitting right-handed pitching. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and it's never the same case for every single guy, right? And as of late, it's individual to the hitter, it's individual to the pitcher, and it's individual to the coach and whoever you have on the bench that can come in and get the job done too. Not many programs like Arkansas have the luxury to bring in a guy like Lanzilli to face a left-handed pitcher in the 7th, or Dylan Leach, or in vice versa, bring in Gregory or Borofen or whoever the case may be. You know, Coach Van Horn has a good problem on his hands. That's that he has 11 or 12 guys that can hit in any situation, you know. And you think about it like last year, Charlie Welch, that guy can really, really, really hit. And he starts in every other lineup in America, if you ask me. You know, it's just one of those things where he's got, you know, up to his ears and great hitters and great players, so he can kind of pick and choose what he does with guys in certain situations based off the numbers.
So you mentioned that Zach Gregory press conference question. That was actually mine. I took the brunt of that answer. I did look it up. He was hitting 2 for 18 against lefties at the time, so understandable, 111. Now, this brings me to the next question. You recently tweeted about batting average and asking, is it the most overrated statistic in baseball? I think it's up there. I think you made a really good point. My question to you is, what would be a better stat to measure a hitter's effectiveness without getting into like sabermetrics, I guess?
Okay. That's a good one. Well, for starters, the reason I do think I don't know if I would say it's the most overrated statistic. I feel like that's fair. You know, I had a guy comment say maybe wins and losses for a pitcher, that kind of thing. I understand that. That's fine. Good point. I think it is a little overrated too, just because of the points that I made regarding it. Is, you know, a 300 batting average in the SEC is not the same 300 batting average in NAIA. That's just the way it is, and that's no knock on NAIA. But the pitching that you see in SEC is unbelievable. It's unreal. It's as good a pitching as I've ever faced. And, you know, if you're hitting 300 in the SEC, that says a lot about you as a hitter and how high level of a hitter you are, right? Whereas 300 at different levels may not delineate that. So I think, but that being said, I do think that there are some other good statistics that show how good of a hitter is. One of them that's not really kept that I like to keep is called just quality at bat percentage. It's kind of coined by a guy named Steve Springer. He's the mental coach for the Toronto Blue Jays. He's a good dude. Basically just keeps up with if it's whether or not it's an at bat that helps the team or an at bat that's competitive, pretty much. And he scores it in a number of ways. It's basically a percentage like a batting average, but it's if you get on base somehow, if it's a hard hit ball, and hard hit being relative to what level you're playing at, obviously. And I believe it's five or more pitches in the at bat, or two or more after you get to 2 strikes or something like that qualifies as a quality at bat. And I feel like that really shows guys that are consistently having good at bats. I think that says a lot. Of course, you can always go with on base percentage, on base plus slugging, those kind of things. I think those show a little more context than just simply batting average, personally.
I think that's a good point there, because a guy that comes straight to my mind is Robert Moore. I mean, you look at his average, you just look at the stat sheet, and it's like, what is wrong with Robert Moore? Why is he not hitting? But it's almost every at bat. I mean, he's fouling off 2-3 pitches. He's seeing 5-6 pitches every at bat, and even if it ends up in a strikeout or a fly out or a foul out, what you're saying, it would still be qualified as a quality at bat. So I think that's interesting. Another guy I want to ask you about is Brady Slavins, because you kind of you hit on him a little bit on Twitter. I think that a lot of people have noticed with Brady Slavins, I don't know if it's just the way he swings or what, it does look like he's swinging for the fences every swing, but you said that's not the case. So what is it? Because I mean, does he just swing that hard?
So yeah, it's kind of hard to this is kind of a loaded one. It's going to take me a minute to explain, so everyone bear with me. With less than 2 strikes, hitters at the level that at Arkansas, that high of a level of play, with less than 2 strikes, our intent is to do damage. Whether you want to use the verbiage swinging for the fences, whatever the case may be, we're trying to do damage. We're trying to hit the ball and hit it really hard, because the last thing we want to do with less than 2 strikes is to slow our bats down and not create solid contact, right? Because if we have less than 2 strikes, it's the ball's in our court. We're not going to strike out with 1 swing, right? So the goal is with less than 2 strikes, we're trying to do damage. And the issue that I had with Todd Walker's phrase is there's 2 parts of it that I have problem with. One is which you can't infer that he was trying to pull it to the right side, right? Now, it may have appeared that way, and sometimes it does appear that way, but that's not necessarily the case. There can be a mechanical breakdown somewhere that makes it appear that that's what's going on, when in reality, it's just a mechanical breakdown. And he's trying. There have been cases for myself where I've tried my very hardest to sit back and hit one hard the other way, and I swing over it or swing and miss, and then you hear a coach say, "Hey, stay on it, don't pull off, try to go the other way with it." Well, coach, I was, believe it or not. I know it didn't look like it, but that's the goal that I had in mind, right? So in that case, that specific verbiage didn't work. But another thing too, dang, I kind of lost my train of thought. The part with the slump part of it, right? It's kind of like my last year at Arkansas. I went through a skid where I didn't have any hits, and this kind of ties in the slump part to the batting average part. Is everyone they talk about a slump, and it's always relative to your batting average. When in reality, a guy could go 0 for 25 and hit 20 balls right on the screws, right at someone, and he has nothing to show for it, and then also has 10 walks to go with it. To me, that's not a slump. That's not struggling in the slightest. That's just unfortunate that you're hitting it where they happen to have 8 guys positioned and also having good at bats to walk. That guy's quality at bat percentage could be 80%. 8 out of 10 of his at bats are quality at bats, yet it's being portrayed as an 0 for 25 slump. That doesn't make sense to me. And that's kind of the point that I was trying to make on Twitter with, it's hard to condense that into one tweet, obviously.
So another thing I remember you tweeting about maybe a couple weeks ago at Texas A&M is strike zones with umpires. I know Slavins got hosed on a call in a really big situation in the 8th inning there. I feel like we talked about this on the last episode too. There have been a lot of looking strikeouts. It seems like Zach Gregory's been victim to a couple of unfortunate strike 3 calls. I wonder what you think about how to address that. Do you think that a robotic strike zone is the answer? And if not, then what is?
So there are definitely cases with the looking strikeouts where they are probably too close to take with 2 strikes, whether or not they are literally a ball or a strike. And that's kind of something that you try to feel for throughout at bats, throughout series, throughout weekends, try to get a feel for the umpire in his zone. You'll see guys, hey, blue's that as far as you go, kind of thing. If you think it's a questionable strike call, that kind of thing. There are some cases where it's just inexcusable. Hey, that ball's another box. Like, that just can't happen, and that's unfortunate. But at the end of the day, Coach Van Horn is right. You got to do a job, got to get the ball in play and help the team out however you can, even if it is a ball. And that was something that I kind of had to adjust to whenever I got to Arkansas as well. In my mind, a ball's a ball and a strike is a strike, But with the automated zone thing, I have mixed feelings about it. The automated zone, I do think that it does take away a couple of attributes from catchers. You think of what makes Casey Opitz really good is his ability to steal pitches and steal balls and strikes. But then I see the other side of it too, where you're stealing balls and strikes. It's not a strike, and the hitter's already behind the 8 ball, if you will, because the odds are he's going to get out. the percentages are against the hitter already, So I see both sides of it. I think that guys that have really good zone discipline and zone awareness would benefit from an automated strike zone. But at the same time, I think that also is going to affect positioning and who ends up becoming a catcher. And there's going to be unintended consequences. So, man, that's a tough one. I'm trying to be as much of a centrist on it as I can until I see more of it and am able to give a better opinion.
Yeah, I think you're right there with a lot of people on where you stand on that topic. But let's kind of get into present day and moving forward. So last time Arkansas played Vanderbilt, you had a big hit off of Kumar Rocker in the SEC tournament, and that was really, that's what first pops into my mind about that game was your double. And so just what do you remember about that game, and what do you think about Vanderbilt as a program? Because I feel like, I don't know, they play in a small ballpark. It's Vanderbilt. You don't really think about Vanderbilt as like an SEC school, but there they are in the SEC, and they always have a good baseball program.
Yeah, they do always have a good program, and whether or not you like who they are, you have to tip your cap to Corbin. Year in and year out, he puts out a team that's competitive. They tend to do things the right way, and I'm not a big fan of the all black uniforms, but I'm a little old fashioned uniform wise. It is what it is. But you're right. They compete. They compete year in and year out. They're a good program. It's a battle every single year. Yeah, I don't know. You talk about me having success off of rocker. Baseball's it's a weird sport. It's kind of a matchup thing. I'm like 4 for 5 or something like that in my career off a rocker going back to 2019. And if you ask, he's probably one of, if not the best arm that I faced in college. But at the same time, there are plenty of arms that I look absolutely terrible on, that aren't household names. And it's just, matchup stuff. Some guys you just match up well against, and some guys you don't. And, I was really, really happy about that one because I was coming off of one of probably my worst game of my career against Georgia in the first game of that tournament. Man, that was awful. I wasn't seeing it well. I terrible at the plate. My swing was messed up. It was just that I was messing around with stuff, trying to get back in the groove of things. And, it's one of those, if only I knew then what I know now. And I feel like I could have made better adjustments. But yeah, that was a fun tournament. It was a fun series, regardless of how I performed myself.
So here we are 2 weeks away from the end of the season. Hogs hold a 2-game lead in the SEC West. 2 series against teams that are not above 500 left on the schedule. Where's your confidence level that the Hogs can close out this division race?
I'm very confident. I'm about as confident as I can be in the Hogs. One thing that you don't have to question, if you're confident in the Razorbacks, is their preparation. They are as aware. They're as aware of it as anyone. Ooh, that was tough to get out. But they prepare like no one I've ever seen. The coaching staff in particular, there's nothing that they're not going to be prepared for. And I think that that's what separates them from other programs is their ability to prepare and then create a plan of attack and then execute the plan of attack. And I think, like I said, I think that that's what separates them. I think that Coach Thompson does a really, really, really good job in regards to that. We're preparing the offense, regardless if you think they're underperforming or not. I don't care. He does a great job in preparing his players for whoever they face, whatever arms they're going to face. And I think that Coach Hobbs also does a tremendous job with the pitching staff in preparing them for the order that they're going to face.
So with you personally, you're now in Lincoln now. You're playing for the Salt Dogs. You said you played first base yesterday. How's that going? And are you feeling good about that? Are you doing well? I can't find any stats for the games, so I need you to update me.
Yeah, it's going good. I'm actually here at the field right now. We just got done with our morning workout. We share the field with the University of Nebraska, so we had to get off the field a little early today. We actually traveled to Sioux City, South Dakota tomorrow to play. These are just exhibition games, and that may be why you're not finding statistics. The first regular season game is Friday. I believe it's also against Sioux City, but I'm not for sure. Our first regular season game is Friday. I started at first base and batted fifth or sixth, somewhere in the order, but went fine. Had a double, 1 for 3 with a double. It was funny. I had my first at bat. I can't remember. First at bat, I think, was a ground out. Second at bat, I hit a laser right at the right fielder, and I was like, oh, of course, right at him, just free beer shot, didn't have to move. And then my next one was not really a swing and bunt, but hit a top spinner right at the first baseman. It took a weird hop off to the right, and he didn't even glove it, and it went down the line and ended up getting a double out of that. So I guess it kind of rewarded me for the one that was before it, But it's one of those things. It's going good. It's going good. We got the rest of the day off, and we travel tomorrow.
All right, so I understand that you've got a big sushi lunch coming up with teammates, so I'll make this the last question for you. But right after we got off the phone with you last time, you told us that you had a better Kevin Kopp story for us. Can you share it with us now?
Yeah. Well, for starters, this is Kevin's hat. I did not play for Team USA. It's a good hat. He left it at the house, so I figured I'd wear it. Thanks, Kevin. But yeah, my Kevin Kopp story. So he takes off for Arizona. This is after we played at Arkansas together. We roomed together in the off season at an apartment in Fayetteville, and he takes off for Arizona. I believe he comes back at some point, but basically he shoots me a text and says, he's hey, Goody, I've got a package coming in. I need you to get it out because there's actually plants in it. I don't want the plants to die. And I'm like, okay, fine. I go and get it, and I open it up, and there is 3 little packages inside this box of moss. Yeah, you heard me right. Like the north side of the tree moss. So I'm like, Kevin, what is this? And he's like, it's like I said, it's moss. Can you lay it around in the backyard? I said, okay. So there I am. I lay moss around in our backyard, our little fenced in backyard, on the grass around around where the stones are that he placed. And he comes back a few days later, and he wakes up earlier than I do. I wake up, walk around, I hear something, but I don't know where it's from. I look and I see that our sliding back door is open. So I was like, oh, I guess Kevin's in the backyard. I grabbed breakfast, stuck my head out there, and Kevin is standing in the backyard with the squirt bottle, spraying the moss. But it's like a milky substance. I was like, Kevin, what on earth are you doing? And he responds with, spraying my moss with buttermilk. So apparently buttermilk is what you feed moss to keep it alive and healthy. So the context of the story is I wake up and I look outside, and the Golden Spikes winner is spraying the ground of my fenced-in backyard with buttermilk to keep his moss alive.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense now, because you said you had a better story, and then you just send me this video of Kevin spraying moss with buttermilk, and I'm like, what does this even mean?
We have some context now.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think you put it well. Golden Spikes winner spraying moss with buttermilk. Well, Matt, thank you for your time, man. We need to get you on again, but we wish you best of luck as the season starts, and don't eat too much sushi here at lunch.
Yeah, hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. It's always a blast, getting to spread spread my opinion on things and getting to talk with you guys. It's always fun. I appreciate it.
We appreciate it as well, Matt. Have a good one.
You too.
You're listening to the Diamond Hogs podcast with Mason Choate and Robert Stewart.
Big thanks to Robbie Weinstein, and I said Weinstein a lot, but it's Weinstein. Robbie Weinstein and Matt Goodheart. Great interviews. This might be one of our better episodes of the season.
Yeah,
I really like this one.
It's always fun when we get two guests, and they were both really good.
Not fun on the editing side of things, Robert.
No, I understand.
But we're very thankful for them, and we are thankful for the Encore Group who sponsored our interviews. The Encore Group, exciting news from them. Matt Grissom just found out he received the Torchbearer Award, which means he's one of the top 40 real estate agents under 40 within all of RE/MAX nationwide. That's out of 135,000 agents, buddy.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
It is nothing to sneeze at, even though you probably are sneezing because it's allergy season.
Not you?
Do you have bad allergies?
Not really.
I do. Christian, do you?
I had them 1 year. It was weird.
Horrible allergies.
Dude, it is not fun. Me and my wife, we've been just like sneezing and runny noses all day long. It sucks.
But you know what you won't be sneezing at?
What's that?
Matt Grissom and the Encore Group.
Gosh.
I had to circle it back somehow.
Anyways,
The man's a pro.
he's not a pro. He sucks. You know who doesn't
Thank you,
suck
Christian.
though? You know who does not suck? Matt Grissom. There you go. That's how you do it right there, Robert.
Whatever.
Him winning that Torchbearer Award is only achievable with a proven track record of getting results for his clients time and time again. So, if you are in the market to buy or sell a home in Central Arkansas, you need to visit sellingarkansas.com and let Matt and his team show you why they're the best of the best when it comes to selling real estate in Central Arkansas. Big thanks to the Encore Group. Okay, games this weekend. Vanderbilt. Go see Robert on Friday in the Hog Pen. Get you some free stuff for 6 people, right?
Yes. 3 shirts, 3 bags of seeds.
Yes. 3 bags of seeds each, right?
No.
We've got plenty. We'll do that.
Okay.
You can get a bag of jalapeno ranch smokehouse barbecue and Parmesan pepper. 3 people will get that, and 3 people will get a shirt. Sound good?
Sound good.
Okay. Game 1, 6:30, Friday, SEC Network Plus. Game 2, 6:30 as well. Saturday, SEC Network Plus as well. Sunday, 2, SEC Network Plus.
And there are some promos this weekend. I don't know if you saw the baseball account tweet this.
Oh, yeah, red, white.
Yes,
Stripe
so
out Friday? Saturday?
It looks like Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got the tweet up right here. Friday, there's a mystery giveaway.
Ooh.
It is not, we are not in cahoots with the baseball team. The mystery giveaway is not the seeds and the shirts. It's something else.
Like, are they giving it to, like, the first few hundred fans or something?
It just says mystery giveaway.
Dude, what if it's bobblehead night? Oh, I love bobblehead night.
Could be.
Schurzy.
Could be. You'll have to show up.
This dude works for the Christian, you work for the marketing department.
Yeah. So I work with the marketing team a lot. So we're giving away bobbleheads, shirts, posters. So I don't even have any clue what it is. So
Wait,
Wow.
you guys give away bobbleheads?
we have in the past, yeah.
Like
Giveaway.
to the first few hundred people or something?
No, we did it for like a season ticket thing.
Oh.
It was like a Rpi the Razorback bobblehead. So, but yeah, if I don't even know what it is, then yeah, it's gonna be something good then because they haven't even told me yet.
So it's a real mystery. All right.
No, it sounds like we need to have a better connection.
Yeah, that's my bad.
I'm just kidding.
Mason's the biggest hater.
I was telling Christian before you walked in here, sometimes I just hate you, Robert.
I know.
Like, and it's not.
But you're hating on him too right now.
No,
so
I don't hate Christian. I'm that was a joke. But I'm saying, like, do you ever have those days where, like, you have a best friend and you don't know, I was telling him, like, you don't know why, but you just, like, despise them. And it's just, like, sometimes you just really annoy me for no reason. Like, not to any fault of your own. I'm not just saying you. I'm saying everybody listening in general. I feel like some people can connect with that. You ever have that?
Not really.
You don't
but-
have the days where I just, like, piss you off for no reason?
No.
Maybe it's just me.
Maybe it is. Anyway, back to the promos. Friday Night Fireworks as well.
Ooh.
I'm excited about that. Last time they did that, Charlie Welch hit a big walk-off
Yes.
double, clinched the conference. That was probably my favorite night at Baum-Walker ever.
Okay.
Granted, I haven't been to a super regional clinching game yet. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, Saturday there's a poster giveaway.
Ooh.
That's the stripe out, and it is senior night.
Okay.
I believe Hog Pen is red.
Nothing on Sunday?
Sunday, there's a commemorative pin.
Oh.
Not sure what that looks like, or who's on it, or what's on it. And kids run the bases. I assume that's post game.
Kids run the bases. That's like the best thing ever at minor league baseball games.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I went to a Travelers game one time and I won a home run derby and I got a bunch of free stuff from Popeyes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I remember going to Nationals games in D.C. and like it was fun to run the bases and all, but you had to miss like the last 3 innings so that you could line up outside the park and go through the bullpen. Yeah.
Are you gonna have to get with the kids and do that, Christian?
On Sunday, man, probably. I hope not, though.
Are you gonna get to run the bases?
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely running the
Dude.
bases.
Nice.
I want to run the bases.
No, I probably
Media
not.
run
I
the
don't know.
bases.
Media run the bases. Like we won't give you guys a media softball game, but you can go run the bases real quick. Imagine Bob running the bases. Bob Holt. Hey guys.
He'll be leisurely walking around.
Yeah.
Around the bases.
Yeah. All right. Yes, Vanderbilt this weekend. Anything else to add, boys? We good?
It's gonna be another fun weekend at Ball Walker. Show up.
All right. We will talk to you guys on Monday.
You've been listening to the Diamond Hogs podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Choate Mason and at drstew32.